Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And in just a few minutes, Rich Levinsky is going to be with us talking about consultants in the workplace. He has a great topic this evening. He always does. He's been at it for a really long time, and he really has some great observations about what's going on in the marketplace for consultants. We've lately been beginning also with a moment of gratitude, 10 or 15 seconds of just plain being grateful. So think about 3 things that you were grateful for today. Go. Yeah, it's really hard to be unhappy when you're grateful. Being grateful for the day, for your family, for even the trials and tribulations at your job, the difficulties that you've had. Can't be unhappy when you're grateful. Last week we spoke about the being finding a position, having a position in your organization where you need to recruit an individual. That means finding a candidate that is happily employed, that is not necessarily looking for a position, but a particular type of person where you go out and find that person that is happily employed. We talked about the recruitable position, and it's a little bit different than the non-recruitable position, a position that might be just looking for a good, solid candidate, but not one that is special. In this session, I would like to cover the recruitable candidate. And a lot of times people have this misnomer about what a recruitable candidate is like. And I want to go over a couple of things. A recruitable candidate is the candidate that's happily employed. That means he's a candidate that is not looking for a job. Candidate's really happy with what he's doing, he or she is doing, and is one that you have to actually go out and find and give them a good reason as to why they ought to leave what they're doing and go to work for you. Now, there's a big difference between that and an individual that is looking for a job. When an individual is mentally and emotionally looking for a job, they've come to a conclusion that they need to leave where they're at and they need to find a different job. A recruited candidate is real happy with what they're doing. He or she is doing well, likes what they're doing, and because of their particular type of expertise or ability, you as a company feel like you have to go get them and you have to bring them into your organization. There's a big difference between that and the person that has already made up their mind that they have to leave what they're doing. You have to change their mind about what they're doing and leaving where they're at and coming to work for you. So what that means is you have to come up with some really good reasons as to why they ought to leave what they're doing and why they ought to come to work for you. That takes a lot of thought, and you have to come up with some really good reasons as to why a happily employed individual should leave what they're doing and come to work for you. And you need to sit down and write that stuff out and really come to that conclusion that you need to communicate to them. And when you go out and go after them, go after that person, really give them reasons as to why they ought to leave what they're doing. And you better have some really good reasons, because the first time that you go into talking to them, they're not going to be oriented to wanting to leave where they're at. They're going to say, huh? Well, why would I leave where I'm at? Well, you better have some real good reasons as to why you ought to do that. They ought to do that. If your reasons are not good enough, if your reasons for them leaving where they're at aren't good, then you might as well not do it. That means you need to know where they're at. You need to know where they're at money wise, where they're at position wise, where they're at future wise. You need to be able to show them a path for a future. You need to be able to show them where your opportunity is going to be so much better than the opportunity that they've got that you won't, that they would consider doing it. And they're going to need a lot of soaking time, so to speak, mentally and emotionally about doing the job. And you're going to have to sell them really hard on the job, your company, going to work for you, and what some longevity is in your organization. And you can't be flippant about it. You can't just throw it out there and say, hey, we got a job and we are a great organization and you should come to work here. Everybody should. They're not oriented to that. They aren't thinking about changing jobs. There are no good reasons for them to change jobs. You have to give them those reasons, and you have to be very knowledgeable about their situation as well as your situation. And if you're going to do this kind of thing, you have to go after 2 or 3 types of candidates in order for this to really take place. We're going to discuss this again next week. So stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.